Take a moment and tell me what the best zombie game is. Is it the overly dramatic Walking Dead Telltale series? Is it the fast-paced action of Call of Duty Zombies? Is it Resident Evil? Or is it the first two Dead Rising games? Because if you said any of those, you're wrong, because the best zombie game is Lollipop Chainsaw. Directed by everyone's favorite, Suda51, Lollipop Chainsaw is a collaborative effort written by director James Gunn in his one and only video game credit. But you already knew this. You've seen the video on Shadows of the Damned, right? The result is this, a game about a cheerleader that has to fight the hordes of the undead in order to save the world. Not the most complicated premise, and don't worry, it gets much, much dumber. Our hero in this story is Juliet Starling, a high school senior and head cheerleader at San Romero High School. You get it? It's the town's named after George Romero, the director who actually invented zombies as we know them. Super not clever at all, but I get it. And today is a very special day. It's her birthday. But as Juliet bikes to school, she sees things that are a little funky because holy shit, there are zombies everywhere. And so Juliet does what any reasonable person would do and pulls out her handy custom-made chainsaw. See, I told you it would get dumber. And don't worry, soon enough we'll be flying off rails you didn't even know existed. So for this essay, I'm going to talk about the story, the gameplay, the soundtrack, the characters, a lengthy analysis of Juliet, a very disjointed ramble on miscellaneous stuff, and the completion process. Get your pom-poms, rev up your chainsaw, and have a good supply of dum-dums on hand, because it's time you know about the greatest game ever made. So today is Juliet's birthday, there are zombies, she has a chainsaw, alright, cool, got it. You start the game in the parking lot of San Romero High, blah blah blah, you get it. Then you learn your basic combat moves. You've got a pom-pom attack, a high chainsaw slash, a low chainsaw slash, plus a dodge that you can use for some real fun combos, and as a dodge. Who would have thought that the dodge is used as a dodge? Anyhows, run through the parking lot, slaying zombies, saving students, and collecting medals, the in-game currency needed to buy all of your upgrades, costumes, and all that fun stuff. Get a phone call from your mom on your chainsaw phone. Everyone knows about the chainsaw phone, included in all chainsaws, right? All while you race to reach the school and find Nick. Now, who's Nick, you may be asking? He's Juliet's boyfriend, and as you reach the front of the school where he is, he gets bit by a zombie and the credits roll. You failed. But you haven't, because Juliet has an idea involving chainsaws and magic, and it fades to black. You're thrown back onto the map screen, and you move on into the school. From the map, you can access Juliet's room, which serves as a menu to check collectible progress, change outfits, and check the leaderboards. We'll touch on all of those things later, but for now, back to the story. The next level starts with the camera blinking in a disoriented POV, and eventually goes into third person as Nick wakes up in a classroom, head in Juliet's lap. He goes to move, and can't, because he's literally just a head. Just like that, Nick is literally a talking head. And of course he's freaking out in comparison to Juliet, who's struggling to break the fact to Nick that she's actually a zombie hunter. Actually, her whole family, excluding her mom, are zombie hunters, and it's hilarious. But back to the situation at hand, Juliet gets up, throws Nick into the air, and he lands on a cord attached to Juliet's skirt. Yeah, we're carrying a decapitated head around for the entire game, and it's the best. Nick is understandably losing his absolute shit as Juliet does zombie hunter things, going through the school to find this dude named Morikawa. Morikawa is your best bet for figuring out what is going on, so, you know, explore the school, discover that someone is strapping dynamite to zombies, save some lives, and keep fighting. At one point, you reach the first of many mini-games, and this one is zombie basketball. The goal is to decapitate as many zombies as possible and shoot the required number of heads into the basket before the time limit reaches 0. Eventually, you'll reach the cafeteria, where you'll meet the mentor character on the hero's journey, Morikawa Sensei. He's Juliet's zombie hunting teacher, and of course is a zombie hunting pervert that Juliet is too oblivious to realize is a sleazeball, but he does know what's going on, and it's insane. So there's these three realms, essentially just heaven, earth, and hell. and someone is trying to merge hell and earth through some ancient ritual and explosions. With this in mind, go on down to the main floor of the cafeteria and see a birthday cake. Aw, how sweet. Someone baked a cake for you. But wait a minute, it's made of dynamite, and flaming zombies are approaching. Ay caramba! Kill them all, get out of the building. When zombies strapped with dynamite and wheelbarrows get thrown into the mix, explosions, 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 things go boom, and we're outside, and we see the man behind the apocalypse ritual, this gothic loser named, insert correct name here. I actually don't know his name. Help! Morikawa gets killed, Juliet gets launched into a junkyard, there's a big old boss here. His name is Zed, and he's beyond annoying, from his voice to his word choice, and all of that. It's not a good time, but introduces the core idea in every video game boss fight ever. You dodge, slash, and whittle down the health bar until you get to run your chainsaw through him and get to the next phase. 3 phases of boss and call it a day. Eventually cut through Zed, and hey, Zed's dead, baby. Well, dead again anyway. Morikawa comes down from an elevator from heaven and gives you a special gift, a new ability called the Chainsaw Dash. You know, it just occurred to me, I forgot to mention that Morikawa just dies. Yeah, that's on me. I'm sorry. Level 2. You're approaching the school's stadium because there's something about a heavy metal Viking zombie demon landing a boat in the school's unrealistically large swimming pool. Also, as you see on the boat that's flying through the sky, your older sister Cordelia is hanging off the side with her sniper rifle. Because why wouldn't your zombie hunter sister be a sniper? It just makes sense. Anyways, she throws you your present and you gotta go catch it. Since you've got a new power, you gotta learn how to use the Chainsaw Dash. Which leads to some real fun stuff, where you go fast, and, you know, do your thing with the chainsaw, cut some zombos in half, and find new variants of zombies, and keep on slashing. Fly through the school, chainsaw dashing to your heart's content, save some kids, play some zombie basketball, all that fun stuff. Keep fighting your way to Cordelia's present, and eventually, you'll reach it as you do a big jump using your chainsaw dash off the top of a building as it collapses. Catching the parachuting gift, and gliding down onto a field, you're gonna get to play zombie baseball. You open up your gift, and it's a new upgrade. This one is one of the most useful in the entire game, because it's the Chainsaw Blaster, which unjustifiably is not a gun that shoots out chainsaws. Regardless, you use your newfound tool to blast away the hordes of the undead in zombie baseball. The goal here is simple. Shoot zombies to keep Nick alive as he runs the bases 3 times, and you'll win. It's pretty simple and easy to do. Even on the hardest difficulties, it's still a cakewalk, and anyone who tells you that zombie baseball is hard just sucks at video games. Pro tip, you can shoot the zombies as they're coming out of the ground for an easy kill. Regardless, win the game, and you'll reach the next boss. For quick lore, I forgot to mention, there are these 5 demon zombie things called the Dark Purveyors, and you gotta kill them all to stop the rot, the thing that's merging hell and earth, from spreading. And upon defeating all of the Dark Purveyors, it should reverse the spell and everything goes back to normal. And back to the story as it's happening, Juliet and Nick reach the comically large swimming pool and meet up with Cordelia. There's some jokes about Nick not being what she expected to see, what with being just ahead and all that, and this fun family moment is interrupted when you've got to continue your quest to save the world. Get onto the boat and watch as it uses ancient heavy metal Viking magic to start flying around the world. Your boss fight here is against Vic, who unjustifiably is not voiced by Jack Black, and this is an error I cannot forgive. How do you have a heavy metal Viking character and not have it voiced by Jack Black? I mean, Psychonauts 2 had a, albeit not heavy metal, but still a musician, Viking voiced by Poe from Kung Fu Panda, so why not have the dude from Tenacious D play this role? But alas, this isn't relevant, and so let's get back to the task at hand. Cutting a zombie Viking into pieces with a chainsaw. You know the drill. Hack, slash, and blast the Viking man through 3 phases of the fight, and eventually cut him into pieces and wins. And after beating him, you watch as the boat crashes down at the O'Bannon Farms, and you go from there. Brief side note, most of the named locations are named after famous directors within the world of zombie movies, like the town being named San Romero after George Romero, who invented modern-day zombies. O'Bannon Farms is named after Dan O'Bannon, who wrote many, many movies, most notably Alien 1979 and Aliens 1986, and he directed the cult classic and cult favorite Return of the Living Dead in 1985, which, you guessed it, is a zombie movie. Later on in level 4, you reach the Fulci Fun Center, which is named after Italian schlock film director Lucio Fulci, known for making incredibly cheap and shitty Italian zombie movies, and cheap and shitty Italian knockoff movies even. There's some useless trivia for you to know. And now we get back to your regularly scheduled chaos. Upon entering the farm, I hope you're ready to shoot the ever-loving hell out of some zombos, because you're going to be doing it a lot in this level. The core story part here is you hunting down yet another Dark Purveyor, and you gotta save your younger sister Rosalind from herself and her bus. Rosalind, about 16 years old, is actually feral, and she apparently bought a bus. Yeah, she of course is terrible at driving, because again, she's 16 years old, but may as well be a 10-year-old. Engage in a little shooting of zombies, primarily shooting them off the bus as Rosalind has an aneurysm while driving a bus, and eventually you'll end up reaching a giant mushroom. And you have only one choice. Cut that bitch in half and start tripping balls. So Juliet and Nick are hallucinating, and they fight a massive zombie chicken named Chat. I'm not kidding. This is a real mini-boss, and it's great. Cut the chicken's head off and wake up on a combine, and Juliet happens to know how to drive one. The music begins to blare, and you're immediately presented with a goal. Kill 100 zombies. And so you start the Lollipop Chainsaw Massacre. As you massacre these zombies, you hear, "You spin me right round like a record," and it's wonderful to hear such 80s cheese as you commit vehicular manburger helper. Reach your target goal and keep moving towards your goal. Shoot some more zombos both on and off a bus, and eventually reach another mushroom. Engage the shroom again, and fight 3 giant zombie chickens. Same old drill, same old cock decapitation. But then, you get to fight the heads again, and this time they're attached to these giant finger things, and so you get a cool little mini-boss. And I get to say cocks without it needing to be censored because I'm just talking about roosters, and absolutely nothing else whatsoever. Cocks. Moving on, wake up on yet another combine and engage in another harvest of 300 zombies, while you need to dodge some exploding scarecrows. It's some real funky stuff, and eventually spin me right around into a nice easy boss fight after the longest level in the game. This fight is against Mariska? Yeah, I know how to say things. Mariska. She's an easy fight, primarily centered on dodging and shooting, and as you progress further into the fight, it gets more and more chaotic, with multiple versions of Mariska spawning into existence and being more and more things to shoot. After she's defeated, Juliet and Nick wake up at the crash site of the boat, and Rosalind isn't there, and she's been kidnapped by an auto-tuned zombie that wants to be Rick James? Well, at least you know where Rosalind is being held captive, and hey look, Juliet's dad is here to give her daughter and her boyfriend's disembodied head a ride. Wow! And after a real fun and awkward introduction to Dad, you reach the Fulci Fun Center and make a plan to get to the zombie murder. I don't like the Fulci Fun Center, and for the exact reason I should love this level, but we'll get there when we get to the hellish nightmare that is the gondola game. You've got a gimmick for this level. You gotta climb a tower and make your way through each floor via the power of arcade minigames. The first minigame is easy. It's a key collection game where you have to avoid this bootleg fez-wearing Pac-Man. It's a nice, easy game that I don't hate. Do the zombie killing like normal and keep climbing up the tower. The next game is essentially elevator action, and it's a pretty fun little minigame. It does have an infinite coin trick that I won't explain here, so just know that it's there if you need it. And on an unrelated note, it's got one of my favorite interactions in the game. Nick is a basic guy who isn't a gamer or as into games as Juliet is, and he says, quote, "I guess I'm into side-scrollers from time to time," to which Juliet responds with, "Oh Nick, now isn't the time to be talking dirty." And it's a pretty good joke. I appreciate it. Moving onwards and upwards, you'll eventually reach the worst thing in this entire game, the gondola game. And if this doesn't strike fear into your heart, you've either never played the game, or you're a weak baby man who hasn't tried to complete the game. Now, the core of this minigame is simple. You are literally climbing the tower in a window cleaner's gondola, dodging and shooting things as you make your way up to the top. Sounds simple, right? Well, you'd be partially correct, because if you're utilizing the it should really be easy. But to climb the tower without shooting a single bullet is a nightmare, and it's an issue that I overcame, and I'll never attempt it again. But again, play your part and see it through, and eventually you'll get to the top. Reach the roof, do some cheerleader stuff, and approach the boss, Josie James. has a UFO, and you gotta do what you gotta do. But this time, it's only 2 phases. And phase 1 isn't great, but phase 2 is nice and easy. And it's where, quote, the never-ending freakiness begins, to quote what the boss says when he launches an actual UFO and starts hurling towards space. It's a funky concept, but it's really easy, and it's almost like they compensated for how awful the gondola game is by giving a simple ending fight. It's simple, not hard at all, and it's better than the rest of the level. Back to the story, you go in for the kill. He reveals that if you kill him, Rosalind will die because reasons. Then Dad literally explodes Rosalind out of the ship, and you get to commit cutting in half. Then you do the epic video game cliche and not look at the exploding UFO as you dive through the air before parachuting down to Rosalind and Dad before regrouping with the rest of the family at the cathedral. We're nearing the home stretch. It's time for level 5, the final Dark Purveyor, and he's hiding out somewhere in the unfinished cathedral. So get to cutting off heads. A fun little thing with this level is needing to survive for certain periods of time so Cordelia can shoot a way open for you, or start shooting zombies to make your life easier. Not much story happens during the level, so we'll gloss over all the weird and unique gameplay sections and skip straight to the boss. This time, the boss is the rock and roll zombie man, Louis Legend. He's an interesting fight with a really absurd amount of phases that are really varied compared to the others. That said, it's still a cakewalk of chopping off limbs like it's Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, because the real boss fight here is against the motorcycle that turns into an elephant mech. Because why wouldn't it do that? Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention Louis has a machine gun guitar, because why not? This will be important in about 2 sentences or so. After defeating the metal elephant mech, chop Louis into bits and be free from the rot, because he was the last one. But then, the emo kid from level 1 comes into the arena, says that you've played perfectly into his plan and the ritual is now complete, and he shoots himself in the head with the machine gun guitar. See, I told you it would be important in 2 sentences. And thus, the emo kid's plan has been complete and the final boss has appeared in the middle of San Romero. And its name is the Killabilly, or as I like to call him, Kaiju Zombie Demon Elvis. He is what the ritual summoned, and it's now or never to save the world from being nothing but zombies. So get to it, Juliet. Level 6 is unique. You have to make your way to the boss by cutting cars in half, chainsaw dashing and dodging collapsing buildings. It's a really fast section where the bulk of what happens is Juliet becoming more and more unsure about if she can kill Kaiju Zombie Demon Elvis or not. Sure, she's killed leprechauns, zombies, Sasquatches, and a whole tribe of Frankenberries. Quote, like from the cereal? Ugh, that's totally just propaganda to get you to trust them. End quotes, actually. And these were all easy, but this is something she'd never trained for. So we gotta do what we've done for the whole game. Launch ourselves headfirst into danger and take this beast down. The first part is easy. You just gotta shoot Killabilly in the eyes until his health bar is depleted, and dodge his attempts to pull your head off. Not so hard. Then you gotta slice and dice him while you're on a flat surface as he throws cars at you, and eventually you gotta run up his arm and attempt to go down the mouth of the beast, because the only way to defeat him is to blow him up from the inside. You're on the arm. You've got no way to get into the beast. All seems lost. But then Dad comes in on his motorcycle covered in dynamite and flies straight into the face of the beast, blowing its head up and himself along with it. Juliet loses her mind at the loss of her dad, but Nick tells her to make her dad proud and save the world. And one quick cheerleader jump later, we're inside the beast heading towards the heart. Upon reaching the heart, you see the emo kid's headless corpse attached directly to the heart, acting as a brain of sorts. And if you remember what to do when you see a headless body, you'll know that it's Nick's time to shine. One last time. Juliet, of course, starts crying because she has to sacrifice the head that she's tried to save for so long. And Nick tells her it's okay, because for the first time he feels like he can actually do something. Like he's actually a zombie hunter. Juliet understands, attaches Nick to the body, and kisses him goodbye, before Nick does what he needs to do and makes the body explode. We cut to space, or more specifically, Nick's head floating up to heaven, when his ascension is suddenly interrupted by Morikawa telling him that the gods are giving him another chance at life. But something along the way, something got mixed up, And don't worry about it, bud. We then cut to Juliet, broken and defeated, mourning the loss of her dad and boyfriend when she hears something behind her. And of course, it's Nick! The lovers run towards each other, with the camera panning back and forth between them until the embrace, where it's revealed that Nick is now really short because the mix-up that happened was Nick receiving Morikawa's body. That sleazy dirtbag really convinced the gods to give Nick a chance at life again, but gave Nick his body. But whatever, it's funny and kind of sweet that Juliet didn't lose her boyfriend on her birthday. And then we see the sisters approaching, and they're helping Dad move because he lived! He managed to survive the explosion. However, he needs you to know that now he only has one testicle, because he lost the other one in the kaboom. The family and Nick are all together now, and they head home to finally celebrate Juliet's birthday. And they walk there as the credits roll. Upon reaching the house, one of two things can happen. Because, surprise, surprise, there are two endings to this game. Now, the bad ending is what you're likely to see first, because it means you didn't save all the survivors throughout each level, and by process of elimination, you can guess how you get the good ending. Both endings start with everyone going into the house to see Mom, and upon reaching the kitchen, she's acting a little strange and not facing the camera. Now is where the endings diverge. In the bad ending, or the horrid birthday ending, Mom is actually a zombie and everyone is losing it, and it ends on a black screen with the blood-red fin displayed on screen. The happy birthday ending is the real ending of the game, as it has Mom turning around with Juliet's cake, ready to be served, and you see everyone sat around the table talking about their day, and Nick gives Juliet her birthday present from the start of the game. It's a box of flowers with a thing of lollipops in the bottom that spell out Finn. And it's nice, it's simple, and sweet way to end the game. And so that's the very simple story of Lollipop Chainsaw. But that's not all the game has to offer. Oh, no, no, no. We'll get to everything else it has going for it. So, the story is simple and not the forefront of the experience. So what is? The gameplay is, of course, and my god, the gameplay is so good. It's simple, and you have really basic combat moves, but you have a shop, and this is where the fun begins. You can purchase a variety of combos, from a more advanced combo that combines pom-pom hits to stun and to a chainsaw slice for maximum damage, to a move that basically gives Juliet a sonic spin dash, to the more advanced ground spin that's so helpful for clearing out crowds. The combat is the real focus, and I mean, it's a hack and slash game for God's sake. But there is another crucial element to the gameplay that stands out above the combat in a sense, and it's the dialogue. The conversations between Juliet and Nick are where the real heart of the game is, and it's really fun to watch these two's dynamic. I don't want to get too far into this now because I want to talk about the characters more in depth later, and I'm going to talk about Juliet extremely in depth and academically later on, so let's keep this brief. The dynamic here is one where Juliet is completely unfazed by the insanity of the situation she's in, and Nick is the proverbial straight man, where he acts as the audience's surrogate into the world of the game. They also act as an interesting contrast where Juliet is perpetually positive and Nick just wants to die because he's literally just ahead. Again, they have an interesting set of dynamics, and those are where a lot of the heart comes in. Within the dialogue, you have a lot of really fun things. When you save survivors, there's always some dumb statement like, quote, "Juliet, I'm so totally gonna masturbate to you tonight." Quote, "Girls in Kenya have big butts." Quote, "Don't worry about the smell, I just shit myself." Quote, "Haha, Easter egg, haha." Presumably said by James Gunn. Quote, "I never thought I'd be saved by someone with such great tits." And, quote, "My favorite president is Warren G. Harding," just to name a few. I've kind of neglected this up till now, but you can kind of tell that this game is from 2012. And in all honesty, it doesn't hurt the quality of the game, and if anything, it adds a certain charm to the game. You could say it's a product of its time, but I'd say it's a product of being written by James Gunn in the earlier parts of his career. Not to say that the writing is bad, far from it. It just feels a little dated, that's all. But compared to other media of the time, this holds up so well. And this game is still very funny. And of course, some real humor and engagement in the game can be found in the Zombie Journal. I think that's what it's called. But I need you to understand that one of the things to do is kill these specifically named special zombies as you collect all of them. You can read their descriptions in Juliet's room, and you'll find some fun stuff. My personal favorite was a joke about a zombie who once choreographed an entire dance routine to Pink Floyd's The Wall, alone, in her room. It's a small touch, but I really appreciate the stupid jokes like that. Another thing I appreciate is the zombie whose favorite movie was the third Toxic Avenger movie, which is a small reference to a movie made by Troma, which is the movie production company that James Gunn got his start with. It's great, it's simple, and so, so cool. I do actually want to take a moment and talk about the music, regardless of how brief this section is, because I need you to understand just how good the music in this game is. From the licensed music to the original soundtrack, it's all amazing, and I need to talk about it. The game has a variety of genres in it, from 80s pop to metal in the licensed soundtrack to the rock, punk, funk, and more from the original soundtrack. And I want to talk about some of my favorite soundtrack bits in the game. Of course, I would be missing a huge thing if I didn't talk about how every time you use the shop it plays Lollipop by the Chordettes. It's extremely cliche, and they even used it in the trailer, from what I remember anyways, but it acts as a really fun contrast to everything else in the game. For example, I was doing a run in the Fulci Fun Center and I accidentally entered the shop while fighting, and it was a really funny moment to go from fighting for my life to hearing a song about lollipops. It's really dumb, but I kinda love it. It's weird moments like that that really define the game. And speaking of really defining the game, the best track in the game is called First Date Zombie Edition. It's a wonderful, wonderful song that I can listen to on loop. It's great because it really drives in that Suda51 punk style that really makes his games so good. And to go back to the farm, the Tractor Combine minigame where it plays You Spin Me Around Like a Record by Dead or Alive is so much fun and really implements the 80s cheese that makes James Gunn's work so James Gunn, for lack of a better term. And another defining choice was the usage of Hey Mickey by Tony Basil whenever you use your Sparkle Hunter mode, which is one of the best parts of the game in a game full of amazing parts. The soundtrack really helps sell the experience, and it makes running through the stages a lot more fun, especially because you're allowed to play the background music you want to play. So enjoy making the strangest playlists you can, because no matter how you do it, it'll be a banger. So, the characters. There's a few to talk about, so let's just get to it and start with the Dark Purveyors. Zed should have stayed dead. He's so annoying and his dialogue is atrocious. Like his line when you cut him in half for the first time, quote, "You think that hurt me, bitch? I just jizzed a little," end quote. Or how he constantly calls Juliet a, quote, vanilla slut, or, quote, zombie hunting slut, or any other variation of slut you can think of, all in this really nasally and whiny voice. To be fair, he does sound like the sexist and misogynistic wannabe punk that he's supposed to be, and the voice actor does a good job of making his voice work, but dear God, he sucks as a character. He does, however, make Juliet and Nick reference My Chemical Romance's song Teenagers, or as Nick calls it, Teenager, so I'll give it a slight pass. Not that I like My Chemical Romance as a band, but I do appreciate the Black Parade as an album. So just to clarify why I'm giving it a pass, that's why. Let's see, for the Dark Purveyors, there's Vic, who should have been voiced by Jack Black, Mariska, who is a violent zombie hippie, Josie James is wearing a diaper and is implied to be a child molester, and Louis Legend is somewhat of a Chad in all honesty. There isn't much to say on him outside of the basic descriptions or things I've already said, but I'm required to talk about. Anyone can talk about those dead dorks as much as they want, but we all know at the end of the day, it's about family. So let's talk about Juliet's family. I like Mom, even though she's barely in the game. I appreciated all of the times she calls you during the middle of a level. She's a supportive mom, and I like her interactions a lot. Plus, the one time you get to see Mom, she has a great outfit. Dad is alright. He calls Nick a fruit at one point, and that line got me pretty good. I laughed very hard at it, and it killed me. So well played, game. Well played. He's weirdly protective over Juliet, and the game plays this up to a comical extent, like everything else. Rosalind is Rosalind, and that's all I have to say about her. Actually, I lied. Rosalind is absolutely insane and worth talking about. Of all the things in this game, the jokes about her are kinda funny sometimes. Like her inability to drive any vehicle without killing hundreds of zombies, or the fact that her emotions change at the drop of a hat. It's an unhinged character in an unhinged family. And Cordelia's here, I guess. Of course, the secondary protagonist here deserves a special mention. Nick has an odd role to fill, as he has to act as the proverbial straight man. Where Juliet is perpetually positive and is essentially a ball of sunshine, Nick, post-headectomy, is anything but that. He's the audience surrogate, which means he's the only character in the game to appropriately acknowledge how insane the situation he's in is. There's probably some interesting literary thing I could analyze here, but I ain't an English nerd. We'll talk about that later. Nick is one of the weaker parts of the game to me, but I still think he does some good character stuff throughout the game, and he's pretty alright. Nick and Juliet have a pretty okay relationship, and it grows throughout the game, and I love how much they actually care about each other at the end. A lesser writer would have gone the obvious route, given how dumb Juliet is, and make Nick a complete asshole, but not here. Nick actually is pretty sweet and has a decent relationship with Juliet, while still being a teenager whose in-game character bio lists masturbation as one of his hobbies. It's interesting, there's probably more I could say, but I've been saving my academic bullshit for critically analyzing and breaking down Juliet's character, which is actually coming up now. Wow, look at that. Segue. With everything in mind, my thoughts on Juliet are quite simple. Juliet Starling is one of the greatest protagonists in any video game ever. She's unapologetically who she is, and I think it's in large part due to the performance of her voice actress. She needs little introduction, because she's one of the most prolific voice actresses to have ever graced the industry, which is a really long-winded way to say that Juliet is voiced by Tara Strong. She really brings so much to the character, and her performance is among the best things in the game. She's always great, and as controversial as it may be for me to say, I think this is one of her greatest performances in general. Juliet is a very fun character. From how she doesn't acknowledge how insane the world around her is, to how she is exactly who she wants to be, it's honestly very inspiring to see. On the same token, while she could come off as extremely vapid, she has a character arc, and it's a pretty deep one at that, especially for a game that's as exploitive and silly as this one. See, a crucial part of the game is the relationship between her and Nick, and I've kind of kept something from you, my dear reader, until now. The relationship between Juliet and Nick grows throughout the game. While she loves her boyfriend, she quite literally objectifies him when she turns him into a talking head and carries him around for the entire game. He's been stripped of everything that makes him a human, and she continues to carry him around regardless of his desire to die. But it is him that she loves. Or is it the idea of him? James Gunn mentions this in a fascinating interview, linked in the description, and he says, quote, "Nick is objectified by Juliet. He's literally turned into an accessory, a commodity, and his humanity is denied. Nick is not only emasculated, he is super emasculated. He starts off as this cool high school jock, and he thinks his girlfriend is this demure cheerleader, and then discovers she's 1,000 times tougher, that is, more traditionally masculine, than he'll ever be. And on top of that, he loses his body and penis, which is sort of the straw that broke the camel's back. But within this emasculation, Nick has to find some worth other than being the strong one. He needs to find his strength through trust, and Juliet needs to learn how to let go of control. So yes, this definitely is gender role reversal. That said, while writing it, I didn't think of this in terms of gender. I thought of it in terms of character and plot. I think males and females, especially teenage males and females, tend to commodify each other, and that's a dangerous thing to any relationship." End quote. It's something that really provides growth to this character that could easily be seen as a moronic stereotypical bimbo. Juliet really has 3 simple desires. She wants to be loved, she wants a perfect body, and she wants to have control. And it's that last part that's the most interesting to me. She really does everything she can to take control from the moment she gets thrown off her bike. She decapitates Nick when he gets bitten by a zombie and carries him around the entire game, using him to make things happen and keeping him around when he wants nothing more than the sweet release of death. She has ultimate control in this situation, and yet she learns that she can't always be in control of everything. She's ultimately the reason that the Killabilly comes to Earth, because she tried to take control and stop the apocalypse. She prevented Nick from dying because she took control, but ends up causing a lot of harm to their relationship. Her problems stem from her trying to constantly be in control of what's happening, and in the end, she has to let go. Nick has his moment to be the hero instead of being an object. and Juliet learns that thing I've been talking about for the past several words. She also ends up learning that she does love Nick as a person, which I feel is ultimately why she was so destroyed by having to sacrifice him. She starts off really just liking Nick in a very superficial way, and by the end of the game, there is a genuine love there, and it's really sweet to see. Academic shit aside, I love her endless positivity, her unapologetic obliviousness, and her insanity. I know I just spent a good chunk of words just talking about how complex of a character she is, but that's not why I like her so much. I like her because she's just a super fun and unique character. She's unhinged, she's delightfully weird, she's extremely capable, and she could absolutely kick my ass into oblivion. But above all else, she is who she chooses to be, and that's something everyone should strive to be. She comes off as being completely aware of how much the game sexualizes her, and she embraces it wholeheartedly. She has a constant wink to the camera when she does more provocative poses and actions. She takes it all in stride and never looks back in shame, and I love that. I love a character that is exactly who they want to be, even down to the combat integrating her skills as a cheerleader into her skills as a zombie hunter. It's all so good, and it's why I can say that Juliet Starling is one of my favorite video game characters ever. I would be missing something if I didn't at least say that I'm aware of the numerous feminist readings that exist for Juliet, but I don't think I can accurately talk about those as I am a man. There's a lot to talk about there, however, I am unqualified to do so, and thus I leave it to you to seek out more if you are so inclined to do so. I would recommend it because there are a lot of really fascinating takes on the game, and Juliet out there that are from people more qualified to talk about that than I am. While there are a variety of opinions, I tend to find that most of the recent analysis tends to be very positive, and in one article that I can't find for the life of me, they praised Juliet for being a unique breakdown on many stereotypes. And I wish I could find it and link it here, but it was a really good analysis. But again, these are written by more people qualified than I am. Actually, update, I found the article I was talking about, and it will be linked in the description below. So, just to wrap this up, yeah, I'm aware of how insane it is for me to be praising this game as much as I have. I mean, I'm not oblivious to my situation, but I will say my thoughts unashamed and unapologetically, and I will stand by them. Juliet Starling is one of the greatest characters in any video game ever, and anyone who tells you otherwise has clearly never played this gem of a game. I want to mention that most reviews of the time for this game are absolutely wrong, to the point where I was asking, did we play the same game? I would understand why this game would be divisive, especially given who made it, but to call this game anything short of amazing is to miss the point. There's so much to love here, and I cannot recommend it enough, nor can I disagree with IGN's review of the game enough. Them only giving this a 5 out of 10 feels so morally wrong, and I need to ask this again. Did we play the same game? Apparently we didn't, because when they say the game gets old fast, I'd say this game is the most fun I've had completing a game in years. When they say that Nick is one of the most consistently funny things in the game, I couldn't disagree more, because Nick is pretty hit or miss in all actuality. And don't even get me started on how they completely missed Juliet's character being the strongest thing in the game. Completely missed that the combat in the game is extremely fast-paced and fun, completely missed how absolutely unique the game is overall, and I know I've said it already, but did we even play the same game? I feel like this just comes off as ranting, and I'll wrap this up soon, but I need this to be understood. Lollipop Chainsaw is one of the most unique and fun games I've ever played, and I've played a lot of games, and to give this game only a 5 out of 10 is an injustice greater than Psychonauts 2 being robbed by Deathloop in every category at the Game Awards. Moving past my blind baby rage at the ineptitude of critics, I'd like to talk about zombie games in general, and why this game stands out above the rest. We'll start with a brief crash course on the history of zombies. As you didn't expect, zombies originated in Haitian folklore, but these aren't zombies as you know them now. These are voodoo zombies. Given what I can find as someone who isn't an expert in folklore, these are reanimated corpses that function more as a servant to a witch or voodoo practitioner, and these ideas get adopted by other cultures, and in 1968, the world of zombies was forever shaken with George Romero's Night of the Living Dead. This film shifted zombies from being a corpse brought back to life under the control of a witch, to a mindless entity that hungers for human meat. Then, in 1996, you get a certain little indie game on the PlayStation that you've probably never heard of called Resident Evil. Yeah, which is widely credited as introducing science to zombies. And from there, you know the rest. Now, back on topic, zombie games are widely believed to have started in 1984 with Zombie Zombie, but technically starts in 1982 with Entombed. However, this is an Atari game that isn't clearly at all about zombies, so Zombie Zombie it is then. Then we hit 1996 with Resident Evil, and it's definitely a game. I'm personally not a huge Resi fan, but I get what it did, and it focused on the horror and survival aspects that a certain creature like zombies could work with, and video games were changed forever as a result. I'm going to skip straight to 2006 with the release of a timeless classic, Dead Rising. This was a game changer, as it's unintentionally a comedy, and the concept of being locked in a mall full of zombies for 3 days with nothing but the items within the mall to defend yourself could be used in a terrifying way. It's used as a comedy. Dead Rising is a very funny game, given how old and outdated it is in the cutscenes and facial animations, but it's also just a really funny game in general, and I do love Dead Rising, and the far superior Dead Rising 2. And it's a shame that Dead Rising 3 and 4 never happened, because if they stuck with the black comedy aspects of the two good games instead of going ultra bleak and serious, they could have cemented a franchise of amazing comedy games. Maybe one day I'll cover Dead Rising, but that's a problem for future Leg of Glazed Ham. Then there's a lot of other games that I personally don't care about because I like my zombie games fun, chaotic, and stupid, like Dead Rising 2, and not serious dramatic character dramas like Telltale Walking Dead series or Dead Rising 3 and 4. Because a serious zombie story needs to grab me, and most just don't interest me. But what makes Lollipop Chainsaw stand out above the rest? Well, it's quite simple. It's a combination of Suda51's style, James Gunn's writing, and of course a cheerleader with a chainsaw. I've already talked ad nauseum about all of the previously mentioned things, so I'll just say that this game leapfrogs over the competition and does a sick-ass 360 backflip while chainsawing them in half at the same damn time. It's amazing how something this unapologetically goofy is just leagues above anything else. As much as I love Dead Rising 2, this game is just more unapologetically crazy all the way through. And I think that's what sets Lollipop Chainsaw apart from the rest, and makes it so much better. It's a truly special vision that goes a long way within a genre dominated by a series like Resident Evil or The Walking Dead. As I wind down, I want to address the director and his work. I absolutely love Suda51's games I've played. He's one of the most consistently interesting creatives in contemporary gaming, and I know how divisive me saying this is. People love Suda's work or they hate it, and I feel like within the fans of his work there's definitely a consistent structure you'll find in the rankings of it. I haven't played all of his games yet, so I'll talk briefly about the few I have played in a small tier list of sorts, starting with a nice, easy, totally non-controversial last place pick by default, No More Heroes. No More Heroes is a good game that I really want to love as much as everyone else, but don't get me wrong, I really like this game. It just isn't my favorite. While being a fun and good hack and slash at its best, it's an incredibly tedious job simulator that kills the pacing of what should be a fast-paced, chaotic, comedic gem. It is still a good game, don't get me wrong, just not the best. Then we've got Shadows of the Damned, which I have currently done an entire essay on, and it's an okay piece. Not my favorite essay, but it's an okay essay on a pretty good game. Shadows is a bit underrated in all honesty. While it definitely feels pretty juvenile in the humor, it's still really interesting to see, and again, I recommend it a lot. And of course, in the number one slot, we've got a controversy on our hands because it's Lollipop Chainsaw by a landslide. Most people tend to have this one in the middle of their list or in third place, but I have to say it's my absolute favorite for reasons I have already stated and will continue to state. It's a gem, it's awesome, it's so cool, and I will stand by my opinions on this game. Within the game, there is a simple little base area, if you will, and it's Juliet's room.
I miss you.
This is where you can view everything you need to collect and everything you've collected for you to satiate your completionist desires. First on the docket is the titular lollipops, and more specifically the wrappers. There's about 40 wrappers to collect, and they come in a variety of flavors, and are earned through a variety of modes and difficulties. They make a lot of sense being a collectible, given that Juliet loves lollipops. Another big collectible is the named zombies. I may have mentioned them earlier, but there's around 35 to 40 of them, and each of them have different descriptions that are often pretty funny. Again, shout out to the zombie that choreographed an entire hour-long dance routine to Pink Floyd's The Wall alone in her room in front of her mirror. These two things require that you play on hard mode to acquire them all, with one or two things needing to be acquired in ranked mode. Speaking of, for 100% completion, you need to put a time on the leaderboard for every level, which means you do need one run on each level in ranked mode. Ranked mode is cool, and while I only did the score attack trials, there's a medal and time attack trial. Score attack is simple, you need to perform as perfectly as you can. I also forgot to mention that every time you finish a level, you get a report card and a ranking given on many things, like 1. How fast you beat the level, 2. How many zombie medals you collected, 3. How many platinum coins you collected, 4. Your number of zombies killed in sparkle hunting mode, and you get points deducted for how many times you continue/die. Point is, it's easy to understand and it encourages you to go fast and kill zombies with style and grace. So get to it, kid. Go kick some undead ass. Another collectible in the room is the phone calls. These are impossible to miss as you earn them by playing through the story, and they're pretty simple little audio gags that expand the lore. It's also how you interact with Mom throughout the game, and we love Mom. She's great. There's some other fun ones in there, and again, you can't miss them, so go give them a listen. There's also a section for achievements, and those are a given, but we'll get to some of them later on, but for now, just know they're also tracked in the game. And last of all is the overall items section. This one is something else, because there are way too many things to collect. You gotta collect all of the upgrades, all of the background music, all of the concept art, all of the combos, and all of the costumes. These end up totaling to around some 140 items total, and it's mostly not so bad to collect them all. The combos kinda come naturally, as you will want to experiment with some different movesets until you eventually find the one you love. The background music, again, is an easy one to grab, because there's a lot of really good music in here. Once again, a really big shout out to First Date Zombie Edition, because that track goes hard as hell. And the concept art really should have cost zombie medals instead of platinum medals, but hey, it's a small nitpick because there are a lot of concept art is really good. Hell, I even made my phone's lock screen one of the concept art pieces, because yeah, it's really good. Among all the good things within the game is a set of collectibles that's a nightmare to get all of, and it's the costumes. These are definitely a choice, and from what I can tell, was the result of the studio demands, because a lot of them are hypersexual. I mean, just look at the shell bikini and sexy rider outfit, if you're so inclined. Because Jesus the Christ, it's a lot. This said, a lot of the other outfits are kind of fun and goofy, like Mom's outfit and the Japanese maid outfit, which insults you for wearing it, even though it's a really good outfit in the game. The key problem with the outfits is it takes way too many platinum medals to unlock everything. By the end of the game, you need to get every outfit, or in order to get every outfit I hadn't grabbed, I needed some 300 plus platinum medals, which took me an extremely long time to get, let me tell you that. And yet, I don't resent the grind I went on to get all the outfits. Where in most games I would have complained about getting the last few things towards the end, in this game I actually recommend going for everything. It's a worthwhile endeavor. Now, for the big old thing everyone wants when they play a game, the achievements. There are 50 of these little bastards, and they're all okay and easy enough challenges to not be a problem. If anything, you'll get most of them in a casual playthrough, or you'll get them first try. Except for 2. And dear lord are they a nightmarish 2 achievements. The first one I'll talk about is the Love Nick achievement. To get this, you'll need to kiss Nick 100 times, and you won't get anywhere near this without fixating on it. To kiss Nick, you need to use a consumable called a Nick ticket. You can carry 9 Nick tickets at a time, and it takes 3,000 zombie medals to get all of the necessary tickets. And this relies on a certain thing going right. What does that mean, you may ask? Well, upon using a Nick tick, you'll be thrown into Nick Roulette, which has 4 powers by the end of the game and a chance to miss. You need to land on one of the powers in order to get the kiss, and if you miss, you've wasted a ticket and will need to get another. This isn't a complicated achievement by any means, but it's beyond tedious to do. But hey, I managed it without a lot of stress. However, there is one achievement that almost broke me, and my iron resolve to do stupid things. No fear of heights. Remember earlier when I mentioned the goddamn gondola game, and how it's easy given the gun? Well, what if I told you there is an achievement for beating it without shooting a single bullet, and it's one of the worst things I've ever had to do in any game? The run is so RNG heavy that it just hurts so much. My successful run took 30 continues to unlock, sending my score well into the negatives. It was hellish, but I got it done, and probably lost many a year off my life. And this was the sacrifice I made. And was it worth it? Hell yeah, it was! Are you kidding me? This game rules. I can't recommend completing this game enough, because it's so fun, even if there are two nightmarish tasks even if there are two nightmarish tasks to do. I need to acknowledge how absolutely pointless it is to analyze this game. I can say all of these fancy statements while overanalyzing Juliet's character, and I can say how much I appreciate the humor and music, or I can talk about how fun the characters are and how dumb the story is. But does it matter? Well, yeah, it matters a lot, actually. A good game should have good characters, good music. Hell, it should have a good story. But at a bare minimum, the gameplay should be enjoyable. And this game is as enjoyable as hell. With everything I've told you, you already know what I'm going to rate this game. My final rating for Lollipop Chainsaw is a perfect 10 out of 10, and it's among my favorite games ever. This game is absolutely perfect, and while it can be a bit grindy to unlock all the costumes for a true 100%, it's some of the most fun I've had in years while completing a game. It's a game that feels like Beyond the Valley of the Dolls meets Dead Rising 2. Don't worry, I'll cover these one day. And it's truly an amazing creation. Anyways, and as always, my name is A Leg of Glazed Ham, and thank you for listening to me talk about this unhinged game. It really means a lot. Thanks again, and good night.